So this is the first video in a series I am calling Valorant Fundamentals. Before we start, I wanted to give a big shout out to Kezbuchi. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation. Apologies if I am. I'm linking him in the description. He gave me the inspiration for this video. If you haven't ever watched one of his videos, he makes a lot of tips and tricks videos, but he recently made a video on the 7 basics or fundamentals of Valorant and how you can use them to become a more rounded player and rank up faster. I watched it, I loved it, but I didn't wholeheartedly agree with everything that he classed as a fundamental, and there was bits that I thought I could make my own spin on, so I wanted to make a series of videos that gave my own take on what I believe the fundamentals of Valorant are and how people can use them to improve and rank up fast. You will see some crossover with his video because, as I said, I actually did really love it. I think it's an incredible video, but this is both an expansion on some of those points as well as my own take on what I believe the fundamentals of Valorant are. So let's start with fundamental 1, and that is aim. So what is aim? People talk about being great aimers or having great aim, but it's not like something very specific. It's not like traditional sports when someone says, hey, this person is very quick or a fast sprinter. You know what that means. If they say they're a fast sprinter, it means that they can run very quick over a short distance of time. Aim can cover a huge number of different aspects. So let's break them down. The fundamental areas of aim that I believe exist are crosshair placement, flicking and reactions, tracking, and control or sensitivity. So let's go into what these are, why they're important, and how you can improve on them to help you rank up. So crosshair placement is the art of pre-placing your crosshair in an area that makes it easier to get kills on enemies, as well as also make you ready to take gunfights. With the major guns in this game having such quick time to kill with headshots, Vandals obviously being 1 shot and Phantom 1 shot from anything under 30 meters and 2 shots from everything over 30 meters, having a crosshair placement that is consistently at head height will make sure that you are more likely to get the kill, but also make some other aspects that make up your aim not as important. It is safe to say that people with really good crosshair placement could almost let every other aspect of aim fall by the wayside and still be pretty good aimers, as long as you can react fairly quickly. So what does good crosshair placement actually look like? It's easy to say it, but what does it look like in a game? So, in this game, there is a surprisingly large number of ways that you can actually help find out whether or not your crosshair is in the right place. From boxes being around head height to little notches in the wall, you can utilize these to help benchmark where your crosshair should be. But it's safe to say that outside of those examples, the best practice or the best way for lower ranked players and anyone really to improve their crosshair placement is to assume that you are aiming just a little bit too low and be conscious in your games and try and aim just that little bit higher. It's one of the things that I see the most when I have been coaching some lower ranked players is that they have a tendency to be aiming at mid, height, as well as also potentially at their feet. And that's not just low ranked players as well. I do it. I'm high diamond, low ascendant, and I aim at their chest all the time. A good way to track your crosshair placement would be to monitor your headshot accuracy and using trackers like Valo Tracker to see where you are hitting your shots. If you have a high body or maybe even leg shot percentage, then that is something you probably need to work on. Another way to improve this over time is to just play the maps that you play in ranked more often. Playing modes like Deathmatch, Swift Play, and Spike Rush will get you into the habit of understanding where players normally are and where you can put your crosshair. Focus on going for single shots when you're in these games rather than emptying an entire mag as soon as you see the enemy, because this will allow you to track what your headshot rating is in those games and where you are making improvements. Crosshair placement is also really important for helping you with something that I call being gunfight ready. Gunfight ready just basically means that you are more ready to take a gunfight. It is pretty much that simple. But I see a lot of people go around corners or holding angles that they aren't actually expecting players to be there, or they don't react quick enough. And I think if you're in that expectation that every time you go around a corner there is going to be a player there, so you get your crosshair ready to be able to take that fight, you're more than likely going to be able to react quicker than you would do if you're just holding an angle and clearing angles for the sake of clearing angles. This will come also into the reaction piece a little bit later on, But again, crosshair placement is really aligned with the expectation that a player is going to be in a certain spot, and so you get your crosshair ready to take that gunfight in advance. So whilst we're talking about reactions, let's get on to the flicking and reactions part of aiming that I mentioned earlier. This is people's ability to move their crosshair quickly from one target to another, or from where they currently are to a target, which takes both your ability to move your crosshair accurately and also to react to the enemy coming onto your screen or any other stimuli that you might receive. So why is this important? Well, we know that people aren't robots. They don't do the same thing every single game, every single round, every single minute that they play the game. So this means that they aren't fully predictable. So being ready to have to react to someone swinging when you don't expect them, or reacting to off angles when you pick a corner, these are all going to help you win more gunfights and potentially die less, get more kills, get your RR higher, and then get into higher rank. Again, with a pretty quick time to kill in this game, being able to snap to people quickly or react to someone coming into your crosshair is always going to help you win more gunfights. But as you get higher up into ranks, there should be more double swinging and doubling up for certain angles, which then the ability to be able to flick onto one player from another is also then going to help. Having sharper reactions will also decrease that time to kill for you in terms of time from seeing an enemy to killing an enemy, which is always a good thing for gunfights and will allow you to fight and win more often in every gunfight you have. Flicking isn't just about those crazy 180 flicks, but flicking can be things like little micro adjustments or micro flicks, as well as just being able to make sure that your crosshair can move from one part of your screen to another accurately and efficiently without having to make so many adjustments, and again, increase or decreasing that time to kill. Being able to slightly adjust your aim quickly will make sure that also when you're trying to be as accurate as possible, if you do miss that first shot, you're able to then make that small little flick micro adjustment and get back on track, making sure that your aim is great and making sure that you're getting that kill. So if we are struggling with flicking and reactions, how do we improve on this? I think firstly, for flicking, there are tons of ways to work on this. Aim trainers like AimLags and Kovacs are good ways to improve these fast flicks and adjustments, and will also help with other aspects of your aim. But you can also do this in game with the training range. I would recommend doing 30 bots, standing perfectly still and pretty close to that little barrier, and just trying to get as many bots as humanly possible, not strafing or moving, just resetting your aim every single time you've got a kill, or even just utilizing the fact that you might have to flick quite a far way to get to the next bot. But in my opinion, again, trying to improve those 180 flicks isn't something that's a really big important thing for you. I would be focusing more on just the ability to quickly react and quickly aim accurately onto that player. If you feel like you do want to focus on those 180 flicks, or you feel like that's something that is coming up in your games and you're struggling with, I would think that this is actually something more to do with your positioning and your movement over your aim. So if that is something that you're looking to improve, I'd make sure that you subscribe and ring that notification bell below, because I will be putting out a video in the next week that will go over movement and positioning that will be just right for you. For what difficulty on 30 bots, if you're doing this flick training, it really depends on what you would normally do. I think just starting with medium bots is going to be good, because for anyone new to aim training, this should have some level of difficulty whilst also not being completely disheartening like the hard bots can tend to be. And again, the idea isn't to just smash it out of the park, get 30, just look at me, I'm the best. The idea is to improve. So you want to be able to try and at least start at medium, or maybe even easy at first, see how you go, look at what potentially isn't working. Am I over aiming? Am I missing them by too much? Am I, if they're going to the right, am I aiming too far to the right, or vice versa for the left? Or am I under aiming it? Am I then moving too far in? If it's to the right, I'm not aiming right enough, whatever it might be. Or am I not reacting quick enough? My crosshair isn't even getting there on time. And then you can build on things like that through aim trainers, through consistently doing these activities over and over again. You will start to improve your ability to be able to flick and aim onto these targets. Once you're getting around 25 as a minimum on average every single time you do that, I'd step it up to the next difficulty. And again, the focus point of this shouldn't be to hit 30 every single time. And if you are doing that, that's great. But the focus point should really be to be able to improve your aim. What is working for you? What isn't? Is it the reaction? Is it the aim? And then going away and trying to find out ways to improve that. In terms of how to improve those flicks, as I said, AimLabs, Kovacs, they're pretty good. But just consistently doing these activities will help you improve. And having that, muscle memory of where you're flicking to and what your range of movement in that wrist and in your hand can do, you'll start to improve over time. And you might start to think, actually, I need to improve my sensitivity a little bit. I wouldn't touch it too much, and we'll get into sensitivity at another point. But it is something that you can look at if you think you're potentially under or over aiming. For reactions, however, this is a little bit more difficult, as people in general are always talking about reaction time, not just in esports, but in games, in sport as a whole, and how to improve it. Does it decrease with age? Is it just a ticking time that we're never going to be able to improve it and it's always going to go downhill? I can't say I know the best way to improve reaction time. I'm not a sports not psychologist, I don't know, I'm not like a sports expert or anything like that. But as part of the process of reaction is your ability to mentally respond to some form of stimuli. One thing we can do is be more mentally prepared more often. This is what I talked about in the crosshair placement part, where I said being gunfight ready. If you're expecting that something is going to happen, someone is going to swing you, there is going to be a stimuli coming forward. If you are expecting that, then you are more likely to be gunfight ready, and then therefore you're more likely to be able to react quicker than if you were not expecting someone to swing you or to come in front of you or whatever it might be. If you are constantly telling yourself there is an enemy around that corner or there's an enemy that's about to swing, you are going to actually be more alert and probably react more, because your brain doesn't have to basically kick into gear that, oh no, there's an enemy there, because you're already expecting it. I know this might sound really stupid, but honestly, this is genuinely going to help your reaction time. The best way I can think of it is, imagine if someone throws you a ball. Now, if they shouted your name and said, hey, I'm going to throw you this ball, you'd probably be able to react to it a lot better than if you just turned around and a ball was hurtling towards your face. That's the best way I can describe it. I know that might not make much sense, but stick with me on this, and I think that that's genuinely a good way for you to be able to build your reaction. If you want to know other ways to build your reactions, honestly, there's probably a lot of research that you can look into to find that. It's not something I can do right now, but feel free to go and research, see what you find, and let me know in the comments if you think there's any ways that you can improve reaction time. So we've covered crosshair placement, and we've now covered flicking and reactions. So let's talk about tracking. This is my all-time least favourite part of aiming. I suck at tracking. Tracking is the process of following your crosshair with the movement of an enemy, making sure that regardless of where they're going, you are following them and you are getting your crosshair on their body, on their head, so that even if they do try and strafe you, sidestep, whatever it might be, you kill them. This is probably part of aim that sounds like the easiest, but might actually be the most difficult, because it takes into consideration your reaction, your accuracy, your control, just to make you slightly good at tracking. So why is tracking beneficial? Well, you will find out in my second fundamental video coming out soon that movement is actually super impactful when it comes to winning gunfights. So if your enemy is strafing, moving, running around or rotating, being able to track them means no missed shots. It means making sure that you can keep accurate when you do try and go for the kill. And also when it comes to the crosshair placement, if you're not aiming far away enough from an angle or from a corner and they swing, it will allow you to be able to move that crosshair with their movement and make sure you don't have to react as quickly as, say, someone that has to immediately flick off of an angle. So, how do we improve it? Honestly, beats me. My tracking is awful and it's still not improving. No, but seriously, this is something that Aim Labs and Kovacs has an abundance of routines on that can really help with improving tracking. But you can also do this in game, either in the training, which has a strafe option for the bots. You can do this with 50 or 100 bots, let them spawn in, make sure that one spawns, don't shoot it straight away, and just try and track the movement of the bots. I feel like they're a little bit erratic and not really a good representation of what player movement can be in game. So the other way to do it is going into a deathmatch, and I'm sure people have heard this before, but just don't shoot people for the first deathmatch. You go in, you get whatever gun, maybe a classic, whatever it might be, and your aim is to literally just walk around, see an enemy, and follow their movement. That's all you do. In the second game, you then go into the game and you focus on tracking, taking a couple seconds and then taking the shot. For tracking, I honestly would say something like Aim Labs or Kovacs or any other aim trainer that there might be would probably be the best way to train this. But I appreciate that some of you don't want to download other software or games to improve your aim. which in truth, if you are watching this video, I find that kind of weird, but I'm giving you an option in the game nonetheless. So we are on to the final aspect of aim, and that is control and sensitivity. So this is like the bare bones basic of aim. Can you actually control your mouse? Can you move it correctly? Is the sensitivity correct for you? Or are you shaking like crazy when you're aiming? This is the very basic part of aiming that I think most people who aren't even gamers will think about when it comes to the word aiming. So why is this important? Well, it's simple. If you have the wrong sensitivity, it's likely to cause you issues with flicking, micro adjustments, precise aim. But also if you can't control your aim in terms of whether you're shaking when it comes to shooting, or you can't even hold it right because potentially your DPI is too high, whatever it might be, it's going to be really difficult for you to shoot and even take gunfights, maybe even making it impossible to actually get killed. It sounds like a very well duh moment, but it is something that I see quite a lot from low rank and new players, that they potentially have too high a sensitivity. They think that the ability to be able to flick really quick is good, but actually they're really inaccurate, and having a little bit lower sensitivity would be good for this. I'm not really an expert on low sense, high DPI, low DPI, and there are abundance of videos out there that you can look into, but I would recommend getting Aim Labs and doing their sensitivity finder. You can base this directly onto Valorant, and then they can go through what they think that you should have your sensitivity as. I don't specifically use that sensitivity they gave, but I used it as a major base plate for where I am, and I think I adjusted it by like 0.02, so it really didn't make a huge difference in what I have, but it did help me find a good base benchmark for what my sense and what my DPI would be going into Valorant, and it's helped me improve my accuracy. Once you have a sensitivity or a DPI, or sensitivity and DPI that suits you and what you feel like, potentially something like Aim Labs has recommended, you should go ahead and start doing all the training bits that I've just mentioned in the video earlier, and then start to work on where you can go from there, because it might need to change like mine did. You might find that you're over aiming, and so you need to turn that sensitivity down a little bit, or maybe you're under aiming and you need to turn it up a little bit. You'll be able to make small adjustments to it over time, but one thing I would recommend is not changing your sensitivity every other game. I changed my sensitivity probably about 4 months ago, and that was the first time I changed it in, let's say, 6 to 8 months. And that was because I felt like I was getting a lot more accurate, but I wasn't reacting quick enough, and I wasn't being able to flick quick enough. And so I changed it there to make it a little bit more easier for me to flick and make those micro adjustments. But that is something that I'm not changing on a game-to-game basis, and that is something that takes a lot of training and a lot of time in the range and in Aim Labs to then decide, actually, I think this is something I need to do. Not just, oh, I've lost the last couple games, let me change my sensitivity. That will help. The problem will be as well is that if you change your sensitivity, your muscle memory and everything you've built on this, practice, especially if you're changing it drastically, will just disappear. You won't be able to do those flicks correctly. You won't be as accurate. You'll probably be really shaky, and then you're not going to win as many gunfights. So making sure you're not making huge adjustments to that sensitivity on a regular basis is going to help you not have such bad aim. And one final tip that I wanted to cover for all of this is the actual process of aiming is done through using your arm, wrist, and hand. Muscles that, similarly to sports, require some warm-up and some repetition to perform at an optimum level. So firstly, a lot of these improvements you will need to be repeating consistently. Any training that I've said to do, anything in a warm-up, anything in the training range, anything on Aim Labs, you need to be doing consistently for it to actually stick and for it to actually work towards some form of improvement. Doing things consistently builds what is called muscle memory, and then that allows your body and your brain and everything to work in tandem a lot smoother, so that you're not having to really think too hard when you do things. You'll flick more naturally, you'll aim more naturally, so you have to do it consistently, and the more you do it, the more that muscle memory builds. Also, having some form of warm-up before you get into a ranked game will help you with the inconsistency of aim. We know we've all had it. We'll have one game, we'll drop 30 kills, and then the next game we can't seem to click a single head, and we've gone like 2 and 18. It happens mainly because people aren't ready enough. They've not warmed up, they've not got their wrists ready, they've not got that muscle memory kicking in. So having a warm-up beforehand allows you to get rid of those jitters, it allows you to focus on what you're doing, and it allows the muscle memory to start warming up and start kicking in, and allows your muscles to actually warm up and get ready to play. In terms of a recommendation for aim routines, myself, I normally do 5 sets of 30 medium bots, strafing and focusing on tracking and aiming at the head. Then 50 sets of 30 hard bots, standing still and focusing on my flicks and micro adjustment as well as accuracy. I then go into a deathmatch using only a sheriff or a guardian, focusing solely on my first bullet accuracy, tracking and crosshair placement. This little routine takes no more than about 15 to 20 minutes, and I will do this every time before I play rank, which helps me warm up my micro adjustments, strafing and all the other different parts of aiming, and I know that's movement, but we'll get into that as well in the next video, and it helps me become a better aimer. Now, the times that I don't do this, because there are times that I'm lazy and friends are playing and I go, oh, hey, yeah, I'll just jump in, I genuinely see a difference in my gameplay. So if you start implementing this now, you will start to see improvements later down the line. It might not be the first game, but hell, it will start being in a week, 2 weeks time, you will start to see that you are a better aimer, you aren't having those inconsistent games, and you are winning more often. This isn't the only aim routine, and honestly, it should really come down to what you think you need the most work on. I personally think I really need work on headshot accuracy, crosshair placement and tracking, and if that's actually something that you really excel in but you need more work on flicks and micro adjustments, then potentially look at warm-ups that focus on those rather than the ones that there's plenty of videos out there again, and if you do want to have a look at what potentially you need to work on, I would be happy to offer up some free coaching sessions for people. So all you need to do is head on over to the personal Discord and message me there directly, and we could potentially set something up. And then in terms of a warm-up, do you need to do deathmatch? Do you need to do team deathmatch? Whatever it might be for you. I used to personally do team deathmatch because I liked the ability to try out different guns. It allowed me to use pistols to warm those up for the game. It allowed me to use Spectres or Bulldogs to allow those, half buys, second buys, whatever it might be. And then it allowed me to use Vandals later on as well. But again, that's got to be up to you, what you think works best. I personally believe using a deathmatch would be good because you take more gunfights than you would in a team deathmatch or a spike rush or anything. But again, that's just my personal preference. And look, that is the first part of Valorant Fundamentals. That is aim. Hopefully I covered as much as you'd like from this. Hopefully this has given a good idea of what aim is, the different parts of it, how you can improve on it, and why actually it is important to improve on these things. If it hasn't been helpful, then let me know in the comments and I can have a look at what I need to do for the next couple videos to make them more important. But look, if it has been beneficial, I'd love for you to drop a like on this video. It really helps me out, helps me know that I'm doing the good things and doing stuff right. And if it has helped in a couple weeks time, you've taken this stuff away, I beg that you come back, drop a comment and let me know what has done well for you, just so that I know that if I want to make a video like this in the future, I know what has worked and what hasn't worked. But anyway, good luck in your games, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace out.